So you're getting ready to ride Swiss transportation, huh? Is it your first time? So you're one of those Swiss transportation rookies. Be sure to watch out for these tourist mistakes so you don't get fined, reprimanded, or look and feel like a total noob.
Whoa, excuse you. The number one question travelers ask us about Switzerland is Swiss transportation. We know that you're nervous and a bit unsure, but take a deep breath. And when the train comes into the station, don't stand on the platform with your nose to the door and rush on board. Always allow passengers to get off first before you get on. On trains and buses and pretty much every form of transportation, there's always a staff person watching to make sure that everyone can get on and off safely. So if you're already on the platform when the train or bus arrives, you should have plenty of time to allow other travelers to exit before you hop on board and find a seat. And if you're already on board, it is acceptable and encouraged to wait by the door so that you can efficiently get off at your stop. Hey babe, did you buy tickets yet from the airport to Interlaken? And what about to Zermatt and Jungfrau Glacier Paradise?
Babe, our trip's in like 6 months. We have good news for you. In general, transportation tickets in Switzerland don't sell out, and the prices are set so they won't increase as your travel date gets closer. And this is true not just for tickets, but for train passes too. Standard point-to-point tickets allow you to travel your chosen route at any time of the day. And you can literally buy your ticket while you're standing on the platform, which is what we usually do. And since a train from the airport would cost the same amount on the day you arrive as it would if you had bought it months in advance, there is zero reason to stress. Just buy a ticket on your day of travel to enjoy ultimate flexibility with your Swiss itinerary without sacrificing your budget.
Okay, our train should be here in 2 minutes. I booked seat reservations in carriage number 10, seats 52 and 54 on this first train, but then we had to change in Bern, and there we're in carriage number 2, seats 17 and 19. Got it?
We got this!
We've lived in Switzerland for over a year now, and we've spent more than 3 cumulative years traveling in this country. And here's how many seat reservations we've ever booked. Frankly, you hardly ever need them, but the rare times when you do need them are for the official scenic train routes like the Glacier Express, the Golden Pass, and the Bernina Express. For these, you'll need to purchase both a seat reservation and a ticket, and it's super important to book a seat reservation in advance, which can be done through each company's website. But you don't need to buy your tickets in advance. You can literally wait and buy these on the day of travel. They can be purchased through the Scenic Train Company or through SBB, which is the Swiss National Railway Company. And we already know you're gonna ask us if you can make seat reservations on normal trains. Yes, you can, and they cost 5 francs per person. Now, we've never actually done this, and we don't generally think it's necessary either. But if you're traveling during peak season and really want to make sure that you reach your destination with plenty of time to spare, this could be some cheap insurance for peace of mind.
There's a saying, when one door closes, another one opens. And while that may be true of circumstances in life, it is not necessarily true of Swiss transportation. We had some friends come to visit a couple years ago, and they called us from the airport to say they had missed their train. They were standing on the right platform in front of the doors for a full minute before the train departed, but the doors weren't open, and so they thought they weren't allowed to board. In their severe jet-lagged state, they didn't realize that all they had to do was push a button. We have a local friend who works for the railway, and he sees this so often that he sometimes jokes with tourists by telling them they need a special door opening app on their phone. Obviously, he's silly, and that's not necessary. So if you're standing on the platform and find yourself in this same situation, just push the button next to the door and it'll magically open. And sometimes when you're on the inside, you'll also have to push a button next to the door to make it open too. By the way, never, ever, ever push or pull this one at eye level. That's the emergency brake. Dude in the office said we should get a train pass, but he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Pretty sure I heard that on YouTube too.
Whatever.
Not buying a Swiss train pass is like throwing your money in the garbage. Let's take the example of a typical one-week trip to the Jungfrau region. Buying the right Swiss train pass could save you as much as 200 francs per person compared to buying individual tickets. Not to mention, it's just super convenient that you don't have to buy a ticket every single time that you hop on a train, bus, boat, cable car, gondola, or funicular. But you could waste just as much money buying the wrong Swiss train pass because sometimes buying the wrong pass is more expensive than buying no pass at all. So what's a traveler to do when buying the wrong train pass is worse than having no train pass, yet having no train pass is an expensive mistake too? We've helped more than 6,000 travelers choose a train pass with confidence thanks to our super simple and free Swiss train pass checklist. Just follow the questions and plug in your itinerary and it'll tell you exactly which pass or passes you'll need. We'll drop a link to that in the description below so we can help make one part of your trip planning process just a little bit easier. And if you want to learn more about Swiss train passes in general, there's also a video at that link that you can watch after you finish this one. I am so glad we bought a train pass because now we can go anywhere in the country for free, including Jungfrau Joch and Matterhorn Glacier Paradise and even Pilatus. Score!
Look at you, you confident traveler. You've got your Swiss train pass in your hand or on your phone, but your job isn't quite finished yet. Your next responsibility is to know which routes your pass does or doesn't cover. I mean, who wants to pay for a route that should technically be free with your pass? And in the same way, you'd probably rather not get fined because you should have bought a ticket, but you didn't. For example, all of the regional passes only work in a specific area of the country, thus the name regional, and you need to know where that coverage ends. The Swiss travel pass doesn't cover you all the way up to most mountain destinations, so you'll usually have to buy a ticket, although it does often give you a discount. And the Eurail and Interrail passes don't cover buses in Switzerland or any of the transportation lines in Zermatt. So your homework is to master those validity maps. And if you have our ultimate guide to Swiss transportation or any of our itineraries, there's a handy spreadsheet showing you which routes are covered, not covered, or discounted. In other words, if you really want things to be easy, that's the place to go.
We've had so many Swiss people ask us what's up with Americans putting their feet up on things. We're Americans and we're not really sure, but I guess it's comfy and we like to be comfy. But here's one thing we have experienced. Putting your feet up on the seats is a big no-no. We've seen so many staff people and even old ladies swat people until they put their feet back on the ground. So even though you're tempted, just don't put your feet up. And before you even ask, it doesn't matter whether you have shoes on or your socks. It's better to just keep your feet on the ground. Hey Siri, navigate driving directions to Harder Kulm.
I'm sorry, but you cannot drive to Harder Kulm.
We have a friend from our church in Interlaken who's a police officer, and he told us a few stories of people who tried to drive their cars up to Harder Kulm or Grindelwald Fürst and got stuck because you can't drive up there. And there was literally even one person who tried to drive their car down the steps and under the platform at the train station because their GPS told them to. Don't be fooled, you cannot drive to most mountains in Switzerland. In fact, you can't even drive to many of the tourist villages, such as Zermatt, Mürren, Wengen, or Gimmelwald. No matter how your GPS tries to navigate you, always read the signs or go to the local tourism office to ask for directions. And you should probably assume if there's a gondola or a cable car that you should take it and leave your car at the bottom. But if you do plan to make one of these mistakes, at least let us know in advance so we can come and capture it on video for our next round of tourist mistakes.
Houston, we have a problem. The last cable car of the night just left.
We've heard stories about so many travelers who didn't realize that the cable cars and gondolas stopped running for the day by dinner time. So then they're either stuck and have to sleep in the mountain hotel or hike all the way down the mountain in the dark. Not to mention that a lot of trains and buses also stop running by 10 or 11 p.m., although they do run later in the cities. So our best piece of advice is to get in the habit of checking the timetables when you arrive somewhere so you have an idea of what time you'll need to leave. The opposite can also be true for morning travel. For example, if you have a flight that leaves at 7 or 8 a.m., but you're staying a few hours away from the airport, you may not be able to catch a train early enough to actually make your flight. Now, that's a really cool way to snag an extra free day in Switzerland, but we probably don't recommend that. Hang on, we're going to Wilderswil, but this sign says Lauterbrunnen. I think we're on the wrong platform.
Swiss trains, trams, and buses are identified by a number and a direction, and that direction is the end destination. But that end destination often will not be the same as your destination. So make sure you know which direction you need to go to get to where you want to go. Sometimes the departure board at the train station will list some major stops along the way, but that's not always the case, and many smaller villages won't be listed at all. However, there's usually a screen on board that displays the next few upcoming stops, so once you're actually riding the transportation, it's pretty easy to know when you reach your stop.
The train leaves in 3 minutes. Do we have time to go to the office and buy tickets and still catch the train? Buying tickets from the station isn't a mistake, and you can totally do this if it helps give you peace of mind that you're buying the right tickets. But waiting in those really unpredictably long lines can be just as stressful. So what if there was a way that you could travel around this entire beautiful country without ever stepping foot in a rail office? Well, you can with the SBB mobile app. Nearly every ticket in the entire country can be purchased on the SBB mobile app. It tells you which platform you're departing from and arriving at, which amenities are on board each train, and even if there are delays along your route. The SBB app can literally prevent you from making the last 3 mistakes that we mentioned. Not knowing when transportation stops running, not knowing which train to board, and having to buy all your tickets in the station. If you have our ultimate guide to Swiss transportation, don't forget that part 2 includes step-by-step instructions with screenshots to teach you how to download the app, how to buy tickets, and even how to follow your route. Hi, I'd like to buy 4 tickets, please, for me, my husband, and our 2 kids. Johnny is 8 and Billy, he's almost 4. They're grown up so fast.
In case you haven't heard, kids under 6 are free on public transportation throughout the entire country of Switzerland. And kids ages 6 to 15 are normally half price. But this small country is awfully friendly to little ones because kids under 16 could theoretically travel with you for free throughout your entire Swiss vacation. Here's how. If you have the Swiss family card, your kids can travel with you for free. And you can also buy the junior card or children's co-travel card if you're traveling with kids who are not your own, such as grandkids, nieces, or nephews. And in the unusual chance that you won't be able to use one of those, many regional passes also offer a super cheap children's version of their pass as well.
Oh my gosh, I really have to pee. I'm gonna go find the bathroom. Okay, I still really have to pee, but they cost money. Do you have any coins? Okay, thanks. Free toilets should be a basic human right, in my opinion. But we often find that you have to pay to pee at the larger Swiss stations. In general, the SBB stations, which are most of the major ones, have paid toilets, while the smaller stations often have free toilets. But either way, there is no need to pay because all of the trains and boats have free toilets on board. Now, obviously, there are no toilets on board the gondolas and the cable cars and the funiculars, but we've observed that pretty much every mountain station we've been to does have free bathrooms in the station. Hey, do we need to buy tickets for this ride?
Nah, we got the interlocking guest card.
Did you know that many Swiss cities offer a free visitor's card to overnight guests? These usually cover citywide transportation and provide discounts to some local attractions. Guest cards are awesome if you're only sticking to the cities or you're traveling with nothing but a half fare card because you will definitely benefit from the free local travel. But when we say local, we mean really hyper local. For example, the Interlaken guest card can get you to Interlaken Oost, Interlaken West, and Wilderswil. but it will not take you to Harderkulm, Schienegeblatze, Grindelwald, Lauterbrunnen, or any of the mountain peaks. And while the Lucerne visitor card will take you to sites such as the Lion Monument or the Swiss Transportation Museum, it won't get you up to any mountains either. The bottom line is that you shouldn't ignore these guest cards entirely. Take advantage of the free local transport and the discounts on activities and museums. But most of the time, having a visitor card doesn't mean that you will not also need a train pass too. Hey, you mind if I sit there?
Sorry, it's full. If there are hardly any people on board with you, it is totally fine to keep your bag next to your seat. But if transportation is full, please don't take up a seat with your suitcase or block the aisle with your stuff. Instead, put your bags on the luggage racks. So on trains, there are luggage racks right when you enter by the doors, they're above the seats, and they're often between or below the seats as well. And then on buses, there's a big open area in the middle of the bus where you can stand with your bags. By the way, a lot of people ask us if they can bring a giant suitcase or 2 suitcases per person, and technically there's no limit. As long as you can carry it and put it on and off of the luggage racks, it's okay. Now, we personally like to travel with just a carry-on suitcase and a small backpack. If you're curious what you need to bring to Switzerland, we have a free packing list for all 4 seasons that we'll link in the description below. Do you think we should give up our seat for her?
No, we were here first. If you're nervous about public transportation, you'll probably want to snag the first seat you can find. But just a heads up that the seats right next to the doors are often marked with this sign, meaning they're reserved for the elderly, handicapped, or parents with small children. Once again, if there are not a lot of people on board, it is totally fine to sit there. But if someone comes along who does need that seat, be respectful and give it to them. In fact, anytime your ride is really full, it's kind to offer your seat to the elderly, handicapped, or parents with small children, even if you're not sitting in a reserved section. A little kindness often goes a long way.
Oh my gosh, it didn't stop at our stop. Why didn't it stop? What do we do now? Most trains will stop at every station along the route, but sometimes you'll need to request a stop at the smaller stations. Be on the lookout for the phrase halt auf Verlangen or stop on request next to your stop on the onboard screens. This literally means the train will not stop unless someone requests it. But it's really easy to request a stop. You simply push the open door button on the train. And don't worry, it won't literally open the door until the train arrives in the station. And you'll pretty much always need to request a stop on the bus, and to do so, you just hit one of the buttons that says stop. By the way, mountain transportation like cable cars and funiculars pretty much always stop at every station along the way. And gondolas, even though they're continuously moving, slow down when they enter the station so that you have plenty of time to hop on and off. Now, there's so much more we could still say, so watch this next to learn how to ride public transportation like a pro before you ever step foot in Switzerland. And then check out part 3 of our ultimate guide to Swiss transportation for answers to even more of your questions. And we'll see you on the trains in Switzerland.